There it is. All right. Cool. Yeah, good morning, everybody. So a few minutes until the opening bell. We actually went ahead and hopped in already prior to the opening bell. And we've already secured the lines portion of the move as well. Right, simply catching the low. So this is a turtle soup entry. We trade into it. We trade into it again, create this low, close above. Next candle that trades into the liquidity, we get long. And then we offset it inside of the bearish fair value gap. So now we just have two left. And we're going to see, I just want to see if the opening wants to propel us into the high of this 4-hour fair value gap again. Right, see if we don't want to run out some highs. So I think we have the attempt to get into these equal highs. And that's what we'll see if we can't get off the open. Right there. I am going to close just another one at this high. We're already holding this bearish. So the reason I'm at break even here is because 930 could easily just rip lower and create a new low. As far as overall bias, I'm kind of playing right in between biases. So I'm mostly relying on lower time frame structure, especially when we don't have news. Just need more, I guess, more information. But we'll see if we can't get the long pump up quick off the open, and then we'll adjust from there. Also a new day opening gap here, which is why I was confident taking that entry. And as we said, just 5 handles from here up here. If we want to get more and run through that, we'll see if we can't get that. $9.30, boom, there's first exit. Oh, we didn't hit that, wow. Huh. We'll wait and see if we want to actually exit us out. As you said, we had the partial at that high. We did tap it, just no exit. We're tapping it again. Maybe we just manually close. We're probably gonna have to do that. Oh, there we go, okay. Just delayed. So there goes that partial. Now we'll just look to run the high, the buy side there. Acceleration, should see buy side, cool. And that should be it. Nice, okay. Perfect, perfect. Interesting. Okay, so we close above, and we still didn't get. I guess we're just gonna have to close. Okay, just delayed with how we're moving there. That's weird. But there's the exit. Right, we understand. We're gonna quickly just follow and see. Do we want to keep running for buy side? Higher time frame, we're bullish. That's why I'm looking for long. So let me go to the 4-hour real quick. Oh, we gotta hide all this. But it's a really bullish from the gap. 4-hour fair value gap, institutional order flow entry drill, we expand, bullish fair value gap, price holds, we expand, breaking a high, bullish fair value gap, price trades into the low and holds. So now we're just looking for the next 4-hour candlestick to target the previous 4-hour candlestick's high, right? And that's that high right there on buy side. Especially because we've closed above first presented fair value gap, closed above the 4-hour fair value gap, closed above the highs. Short term, oh yeah, that's clean. Okay, so we should hit the buy side here. And then we'll see if we want to keep running higher. Bullish fair value gap aligned with the 4-hour. Potential of wanting to use that. Not anymore. I'm out now. Right, this was my long. Now we're just following. See, this would be like a continuation entry. Say you missed this trade and you want to re-enter. I'd try to maybe enter in here, but we'd have to wait for confirmation higher at this point since our target already hit. It makes sense to hold from this, as we said. Right, 4 hour fair value gap. We left that 1 minute bullish fair value gap. Buy side still resting here, which is the 4 hour high, which I think the 4 hour candlestick wants to get up into. So to me, the objective is still higher prices for the time being. We did get back below this first presented fair value gap, but I think that's simply returning into this bullish. We should overtake that and then continue to run into buy side. All right, so that fair value gap there holds perfectly. Now we see if we want to run into the buy side. We're above the new day or the first presented fair value gap. Should hold us now as I watch price trade into it. I basically want to see bodies can go lower, but we want to see bodies hold that. Ideally, we don't even wick lower, so kind of just watching that, see the willingness of price to hold there. Right, I'm watching this buy side as well, seeing if we continue to wick. So if we continue to wick, this will be a swing low. Price should hold inside first presented, and then we should accelerate into the buy side. As I said, for me currently, I'm fully out of position. This was the only entries that we had here. So we stack on 5, partial out 3, close 2, or close 1, and then close 1 at the high. But I think we could still run. I just don't need to be involved in it. So far that's holding up nicely as well. So really clean delivery so far. Previous day, is this previous day's high or low here real quick? So that's previous day's low. Okay, so that's going to be a key area, and there's the buy side. Look at that, perfect. So from here now I'll be interested to see what we do. Right, now that we've hit buy side, my attention goes back to this inversion and this actual bullish fair value gap. Right, once we deliver into objectives, even if we want to actually get into the new week opening gap up here, which I think we do, we could get a retracement. So we'll just wait to see that. Right, for me, if I'm long here, like we said, that was our second entry. If we're long, I'm targeting new week opening gap. Here, new week opening gap below at least. Should be an easy objective for price to reach into. And then also, is that the RTH? No, wait, let's pull up the... Just want to see the RTH gap. Was our opening range gap? Oh, opening. Okay, yeah. So we should be bullish actually. As I said, I'm out. If we get another clean entry, I may look to re-enter, but content with enough, fellas, right? Content with enough. So yeah, I'm basically watching to see what do we do with this old buy side here now. I'm not convinced that we want to actually, let's see if we're going to remain within the range. Price will close within that. Okay. So at this point, as I said, on the hands, if I had to give analysis, I would say if we want to continue to run bullish, look to see if first presented here holds. If we fall through that, I still think we may want to hold from the actual inversion paired with the 1 minute. And that's just because as I look, right, we completely blast through with this candle. So we've yet to return into the inversion. And even though this candle did return into the bullish fair value gap, as we often talk about, if we don't hit consequent encroachment, that area can be returned into again and still support us. So I'm just allowing for that to happen. Right, we'd want to see new first presented hold us and continue to push. But if we fall through, we understand we could still find support in here, so we're not fully flipping the bias for shorts. For the time being though, if you're long, right, if you're long, should be looking good, should just continue to push higher. This is what we want to see, right? Candlestick's kind of telling us the story. Once we leave that first presented here, this candle wicks into it, we accelerate. Notice how the bodies are holding the actual previous day's low. That's really nice after closing above the buy side. Closing above the buy side is our indication that price can continue to trade higher. So when we watch that next candle, it'd want to be a wick, and that's what we get. Wick perfectly into the first presented, holding the actual low of the day, which is nice. And now we've just put in our new, right, first presented of this morning potentially. We'll see if that gets left open. What up, dog? Cool, that's left open. So yeah, we should just keep pushing. So far, pretty clean delivery. New week opening gap, there it is. Nice. Hit the high of it. Let's see what we get here. If we invert this first presented now, we could actually come back down into, but that could be a little short. Just back into this low here. Yeah, let's see what happens there. Yep, smart. As we said, Monday, no news. I did my work before the opening bell. But if you're in here, like as we said, right, highlighted this, I'd already be out and done. Easy entry, boom, new week opening gap. We'll wing out a little bit more. Ain't got nothing to do. I guess at this point, we'll kind of run through why I was looking to enter before the opening bell. And why I was okay taking that trade. All right, so for us, we're kind of just watching where we opened from. Or last week, obviously, we went higher. So let's just back up. Higher time frame. Like higher time frame, obviously bullish. Easy to tell as we look at this. Really from, I would say, once we clear this low here, all bullish delivery. Discounts getting respected, right? Any higher time frame 4 hour gets respected. We trade into it, we accelerate. We trade into the 4 hour here, we break higher. Leave the gap is important, break higher. Institutional order flow, break higher, right? So we're simply just following the trend. Every bullish 4 hour fair value gap has held us. So as I get to the chart this morning, and I see that we've already hit the low of the 4 hour, which is also the high now of our weekly, right? So we're relying on all of this weekly inversion here. So not only have we hit the 4 hour low, we've hit the weekly inversion low. Body's telling the story that we actually can't close the bodies on that, and it's all wick. So already I'm seeing that, okay, we've delivered lower. More than likely we want to accelerate higher. Now in the 5 minute, let's see how price is traded into this first presented fair value gap. Trades back into the 4 hour, right? We create the failure swing to actually clear these lows, and then we accelerate again, leaving behind a 5 minute and a 1 minute here. And don't forget, right, if I go down to like a 1 minute chart, we also have a new day opening gap. So I'm kind of seeing how all of these things are aligning at this area, right? Besides a new day opening gap, what else am I looking at? I'm looking at the actual 4 hour bullish fair value gap we're in. I bring up the quadrant levels, right? Notice that lower quadrant, that's what this candle's stabbing into. So I already have the understanding that, okay, I want to see price trade higher off of, right, basically this low that we've put in. We have a short-term low here that is paired with our new day opening gap, a 1 minute fair value gap, and the lower quarter level of the actual 4 hour fair value gap. So in my mind, I'm thinking if price truly does want to run bullish, and we've already done the work of trading below this 4 hour, there's no need to return into the low of this 4 hour fair value gap again. That's kind of the understanding. So as I watch this price runs out that short-term low, I see the first candle wicks it. We close above. I'm still wanting to see if we want to test lower. Very next candle, once again, wicks lower, creating now the actual low and holds at that liquidity. So once that happened, like I said, I'm fine entering really on the high. That's where the entry comes. It came right on the high of the actual new day opening gap. And we did get close because my stop loss was 1 tick below this low, understanding that this candlestick should be the swing low that gets put in place before price flips on us. And remember, right, all of this is kind of coming with the understanding that we already went through. We're inside the 4 hour. Price has already swept a short-term low. We have relative equal highs for buy side paired with a first presented fair value gap. That's an obvious draw on liquidity. And we don't have any high impact news. So on days with no high impact news, I'm a lot more willing to just kind of trust price action. And I understand that without news, 9:30 itself is going to be more like the catalyst rather than waiting for news. So I want to be in before the 9:30 opens. right? And that's why we get long here. As I said, first partial just comes at a safe area of exit. Ends model, a little over 5 handles at the opposing fair value gap here. And then the final target, as we said, was simply just the buy side. So at this point, we're still continuing to run bullish, which is cool, right? Do I feel any type of way that I missed out on that? Not at all. Right, at this point, there's going to be hundreds of trades set up this week. One misrun is nothing. If you did miss that entry though, right, you still get the entry as well. So that in itself gave you another opportunity, which is also why I'm just never scared of missing entries. Because let's say that I was confirmed to go long, but I was too nervous to actually take this. Well, now it still gave me the confirmation here. Low, high, lower, low, bullish breaker, inversion, bullish fair value gap gets created as we leave the 4-hour fair value gap. So all of these are aligning just too well. Right, and that was just a clean A+ setup. As you said, to target new week opening gap. He said bro's ICT's son. That's funny. Now I just have a lot of years with these concepts, man. Well, that's all I ever say. I've had a lot more time than most other people out there. Fortunately. Fortunate in that aspect. Why do I do ES over NQ? Personally, for me, I just think ES moves cleaner, right? Like, I'm sure NQ, let's see what NQ gave. Okay, so pretty much the same entries as well. I just find that, right, as I've kind of progressed and evolved in my trading, ES gives me more precise setups that allow for tighter stop losses. Right, sure, granted NQ moves more as far as pip value, but when you understand risk management, it doesn't really matter. Right, because I'm risking the same either way. Like this trade here, right? This trade here, like kind of just to run through scenarios. 13 handles. Whereas like this trade here, sure, we see on the surface, all right, 82 handles. So this will look like a larger trade. But in reality, it's going to be the same risk, right? The risk is all based on stop loss, not necessarily how far price is moving. I was a private student, but I wasn't even a full private student, right? Like I'm not a charter member. I didn't pay the entire, I guess we'll say, payments that I had to pay. So I joined in 2019. I was a private member in 2019. But even then, I was still in school at the time, so I couldn't really afford to pay that each month, and I didn't finish the full mentorship. And so I did a few months. I couldn't pay anymore, so I got booted. I guess we can say now, since it's all out there, that at the time, right, I was able to access still the actual contents within. So unfortunately, he did have people that still were, right, leaking his materials and all the daily videos. So I was still able to get that information, but it's not like I'm a charter member or anything like that. Most of the stuff comes from just things he's released to the public in time, man. That's really all. Right? I don't have any other secret information than anybody else. Ba-da-da-da-da. Let's show this real quick. Little screenshot. Cool. All right. So first percentage for value gap there. At this point, this delivery here is just screaming to me to run against that. Could just go one-sided, right, and be wrong and just continue to push, but oh yeah, back inside. Okay. About to hit midpoint of new week opening gap. So I want to see what happens now that we've hit new week opening gap's midpoint. We've actually closed above that. Wow. So right now, really all bullish. In theory, this should hold us. Like if we're going to maintain this bullish delivery, this should hold us. So let's follow that and see what happens. As I said, I'm not going to look for that because at this point, my idea, or I guess my understanding, I want to see a run on all of these lows at this point. So I would have to wait for more, maybe a run on high. If we could do that, yeah, run that high out and then look for a retracement lower. Blasting through new week opening gap to me sets a pretty bullish week. So as we said, we wanted to see the 4-hour get the high, which we did. Ultimately, this was our actual buy side. I was hoping we can catch a move up into that later this week, but if price gets real animated off the opening today, we'll see what we get. For me, I would like to see, just purely, at least for like framework purposes, I'd like to see us run out this high and then retrace into this 15-minute fair value gap that looks like it'll be left behind. And then that'll give us an entry there. But for the time being, as we said, let's follow this here. So first presented fair value gap would be the entry. Low below the swing low, and then entry or the exit becomes the high of the new week opening gap. Don't forget RTH gap here as well, which is why price is still reaching up. The midpoint of the RTH gap is right here. So we've hit that as well. So yeah, this would be a good area for us to flip on this actually. Let's see what we get. Oops, I want to do that. For me, I'm fine being on the sidelines if we invert this, however. So let's say that we invert not only the bullish fair value gap, but right, this first presented fair value gap displays below that. I would like that as a framework to actually try to target some shorts back into this range. Just because really, as we said, off the opening, it's been all one-sided delivery. Like let's go to the 15-minute candlestick, right? 9:30 to 9:45, all upwards. Not even a wick lower. So I wouldn't mind just a quick retracement. Watching Dow Jones take its high before we retrace. Oh, yeah, I might be able to. YM, that's why I don't ever look at that, to be honest. Yeah, it's a good question, man. Hardest part of trading. That's a good question. Make me think. I guess for me, I would say the hardest part, or the thing that I struggled with the most, that really separated me from having success, was fully committing to the idea and then holding it without manually closing the trade. Right, what that simply means is that for so long I would have the draw correct, right? So being able to find what price is going to trade to, I don't think is necessarily that hard. That was like one of the first things I came to. So I was able to have where the draw would go. I was able to then spot the framework of the setup, right? But once I spotted the framework and entered the trade, immediately it was like all my previous experience would go out the window and I would become panicked almost. Right, to where as soon as I enter it, boom, heart rate immediately increases. And now I'm watching every single fluctuation of the candle like it's gonna go against me. And that would cause me to close out of my trades early. It would also cause me to close, even if trades started running in my direction, I would close before it would reach my profit target as well. It's kind of a double-edged sword because you're not letting your runners win while at the same time taking more losses than you should by closing too early. So for me, just the confidence in trusting the setups. Once you're in, you just have to let that play out. You have to commit to the idea. What are you thinking as of now? As of now, I still think we get here, right? So as I said, based off order flow alone, we should hold this fair value gap and trade into the high of the new week opening gap. Once we do that, we'll see. I do think we're reaching for this swing point that was created basically overnight. This would be like the Asian session on Sunday. That high aligns nicely with the new week opening gap high, right? So this is going to be just a strong magnet. But once we do that, I'd want to see a retracement. If we blast up through this new week opening gap, I think we'll reach for higher prices, but as far as looking for an entry for the day, I'd kind of be on the sidelines. Same issue, Brandon. Okay. Yeah, so right, I think it's a common issue that a lot of people go through, which is why I do like to talk about it, which is why I'm here to kind of help people avoid that if they can. It's also one of those things where it's hard because the only way to truly kind of learn from it is to go through it yourself. And so the reason that I guess where I am now is because I've made all the mistakes and I remember what those feel like. So now when those opportunities present themselves, I'm much better at being able to remain disciplined. Right? Pull, or I guess call back on all the previous times where it went wrong. And remember that once I'm actually in the trade and I have the framework, I have to just let it be and commit. Funny enough, I'm in that position right now. You're either closing for 2 hour hold for the 15-minute high. Okay. And I mean, one thing that also helps, right, is partials, I would say. So the first step I took to being able to alleviate that stress and allow myself to hold a trade was to just take partials. Because then, right, it gave myself kind of a small victory for the time being, which freed up my mind, freed up the mental space to then allow it to hold and run to where I would expect it to run to. I mean, for me, I guess that's a fair question. I would say off rip that it was mostly time spent in front of the charts, but if you're ever going to build that ability, you have to have discipline outside of the charts as well. So it really does go hand in hand. Like, right, you could tell yourself that, or at least for me anyways, when I first started realizing I had the issue of not committing to the idea, right, I would tell myself that, okay, just be disciplined and hold a trade and let it play out. But at that time, my actual discipline, right, real life discipline was lacking. So I didn't have the discipline to actually stick to that. So I would say it's really kind of a fine line of you need to be able to master yourself first, right? Have discipline for just anything you do in life. And then that discipline will allow you to improve your trading. Cool. So far holding that nicely. It's actually a volume imbalance, so it's going to be even more impactful, which is why we see that area holding us. Volume imbalance, fair value gap. As we said, this is our buy side here. We should get a bit into that. Sounds good, Dark. Take care, brother. I'll see you around this week, I'm sure. Yeah, so at this point, I will not be doing anything else unless, right, only way I'm getting a trade now or another one is if we run out this buy side. We could maybe run out a high or something in there, but might consolidate. But eventually I want to see price break through. If we break back down through this area, the bullish fair value gap, first presented fair value gap, new day opening gap, back below, new week opening gap, midpoint, right? If we kind of get below all this, I will try to actually short using whatever gets put in here to target first presented, and then ultimately, I think we can come back into the 4-hour high at least right here. So this is what I would look for, right? If this doesn't present itself, then it's a no trade AM. I guess we actually did get a trade prior to the morning. That's more of a pre-session. This is actual the morning session here. But let's see. All right, so buy side should be there. Still pushing up. Cool. What? Morning, man. First presented. Yeah, simply the first presented fair value gap of the morning. Right, so in this blue shaded area, these purple ones are previous first presented fair value gaps. And that's following the 9:30 opening. Right, you want to use the first one that gets presented after 9:30 here. And that's just something that price will continue to reference throughout the week. And really as long as price is trading around it. Right, so there's just key areas, key levels that if setups form around these levels, you can look for price to use those. So like here, that was the first presented fair value gap from Friday, first presented fair value gap from Thursday, and you'll see how price continues to even reference these, right? Digging into it here. Oops. Same idea up here, right? It holds us as support. We wick into it, trade through. That one can't even get traded into, and now we've actually closed above. So to me, that is bullish. That's very bullish. And we may get a run on this high immediately without even on Monday. Do the whole weekly objective on Monday with no news. Possible. We're going to close above that. So right, as we say, that's pretty bullish. So this would become kind of my attention here. At this point, we're not going to chase any higher. We understand we have higher objectives in here we can reach. So we'll just keep following price if it wants to just keep running. I would like a short-term pullback, and that's what I'm kind of eyeing. But if we don't get that, that's fine. Already made the profits for the day. So you have 15 in NQ and ES, same spot. Fully out, yep, smart. But as I say, that's a good way to kind of build that discipline as well. To just close and then let price move without you. I mean, that's a full move. Like if you got in here where we called out on that 4-hour fair value gap high, perfect run. So now we're gonna watch this here. All right, same idea. As we said, we've respected ever since we opened here at 9:30. Discount holds. Right, just look at every single discount that gets formed. Bullish fair value gap holds, move away, create the volume imbalance, wick into the volume imbalance, hold it. We accelerate fair value gap, breakaway fair value gap, can't even trade into it. We accelerate, small bullish fair value gap, that holds us. We accelerate, volume imbalance gets created, that holds us. We accelerate, volume imbalance with fair value gap gets created, it holds us. We accelerate. Right, so at this point, we're not going to try to go against that. We're simply looking for that to continue. Bullish fair value gap now paired with new week opening gap high and hold buy side. Right, if we trade into that, we would look for the same thing. Keep the stop below the swing points and see if we don't want to accelerate. At this point, right, it's harder. That's why I'm not really trying to long at this point, just because for me, the only clear target would be the previous day's high, which is all the way up here. So, I mean, maybe we do want to get into there. That could be a possibility, but just in case we don't, I'd rather see kind of a pullback into the range. I mean, I guess like if we went to a 1 minute chart, yeah, because these are all just inefficiencies here. Sort of like a 15, right? Really no liquidity, just a large area of inefficiency. So what you could do, I guess, is like you could take probably, let's go to like a higher, let's see. I don't even want that, maybe. I would maybe take this 15 and I would break it up into quadrants. So I want this. Okay. And then we would pull this here. So just to give us some bearings on what to like look for price to reach into, right? And you'll notice, boom, low level right there, hit. So yeah, we'll see if we want to hit the low and continue to accelerate. If we're extremely bullish, we might just do what we did here. We might leave that as a breakaway gap on a 1 minute sense. That would be a measuring gap, actually. If you used to take that from the low. Ooh, okay. I do think we actually will get into the high of that. What I'm doing here is taking this and I'm trying to apply this as a measuring gap. Right, it's not something that gets created too often, but basically the understanding behind that is if price is going to create a run like this, so obviously we're bullish and we're creating a bullish leg. Within that leg, there's going to be a fair value gap that gets created oftentimes at the halfway point between that low to high. And that's kind of what we saw when I first pulled up, right? From this low to where we were, we have an untapped fair value gap there. That fair value gap is often going to be referenced as a measuring gap. And what that means is you can use it to measure the future, I guess, targets, right? The future range of where this leg is going to want to reach for. And the way to do that, you simply take the low. So where did this move originate? You take it to the low of when that fair value gap first was created, which would be here. And then I have the projections of right where it could reach to. And I look, as I notice that the second standard deviation of that is perfectly the high of the 15. So when I see things like that, it's very, I guess, telling, right? It's hard to be that random, as we say. Very often, or very little, are there coincidences like that in price. So seeing that that second standard deviation is pretty much the high, the 15, leads me to believe that if we want to maintain bullish, we should be able to run up into that with the same idea that, what do we have here? Well, we have a brand new, once again, bullish discount. So just continuing to follow that. Let's see. Was that a 21.5 point volume balance on NQ or my charts? Let's see where. No volume balances for me. I mean, if you're talking about like this one here, yeah, that's there. But as far as, I don't have any volume imbalances here for me. MNQ. Right there. So that's just going to be a disparity between the two. That's kind of why if you're trading micros, it's still nice to look at the actual contract itself. Yeah, because that's a pretty big discrepancy there, right between. Interesting. Yeah. Still kind of the same discount though, right? Volume balance versus a fair value gap. Okay, so as we said, if we're going to maintain bullishness, what do we expect? We expect the bullish PD arrays to continue to hold. So far, institutional order flow entry there. Notice how we trade up into it and then we actually get above the 15-minute consequent encroachment. So now I'm watching to see, does that level there offer us immediate support and continue to rally us? If it does, right, we're just still in that extreme bullish environment because this is an institutional order flow. We're unable to get into the bullish fair value gap here. And now here, we're barely able to wick into it. So if we were to run, yeah, we would expect those higher prices. And yeah, at this point, we're just so far, I'd wait for shorts. That would have been a nice move to have. I honestly didn't expect this much of a run this morning, but it plays out. So just back into the fair value gap, still could hold from there. Like I said, really at this point we've cleared all the buy side. Okay, so now we're not reaching for any more buy side. I guess if we did, let's see, this is where the last area be. Equal highs here, but really I would look at like this. That's my first area. So now all of this is just repricing to refill in this inefficiency in here. Simply waiting to see what happens once we do fill it in. As we said, closing above midpoint to me indicates a willingness to continue bullish. I do still believe this is a higher time frame key level, so the new week opening gap and old buy side. So to me, even though I want to see this hold, we can give this up and still actually hold from this one. So my attention for the time being is here, but the true kind of flip point for me, right, would be here, to where we can trade all the way back into here, still maintain bullishness. Now, if we close below this area, then I like the idea of, right, attacking some of these lower levels down here. Let's just clean up the chart a little bit. Especially because like the 5 minutes wicked, 15 minutes gonna wick though, so we kind of like to use 15, or let's go to the 5 though. 5 is wicked as well. Okay. So far just finding some quick short-term resistance. That's okay. As we said, we can come all the way back down into here, still bounce. So I'm waiting to see if we fall through that area right there. So seeing something like that, trading into its consequent encroachment, closing back above. If we're going to maintain bullish now, I would look to see that hold us. But we shouldn't venture lower than this fair value gap before this high gets cleared. We can run this high and then maybe come back down. But this high should get ran out here pretty soon now. Once again, right, just bullishness, man. If you would have went long on every discount, you'd be up. Another high broken. There we go. So look for the highs at 15, as we said there. Fair value gap left behind as we close above. So now we're getting a little bit tricky. We can really come back down into this, but if we're going to want to be extremely bullish, we watch here now. Two back-to-back bullish fair value gaps. So you have to allow for the lower one, but I'm thinking if we're kind of done with this and we don't want to retest below consequent encroachment, higher fair value gap should hold us. For me, still waiting on shorts. We'll give it about till 10:50, 10:30 is when the opening hour will be done. So we have the opening range, 9:30 to 10:30. So we'll see if we can't put in a high before that. And then, yeah, I still like the idea of trying to come back down into all this. So longs up were real nice. At this point, still framing longs, right, for higher prices. Just don't want to chase for how high we are. I'd rather try to catch something back into the range. There's that bullish fair value gap we mentioned, so we watch to see what happens there. Because we do have 3 technically, right, we can wick all the way lower. As I said, this would be kind of the lowest one I'd want to see in here. But for the time being, watch how the bodies react to this. Body respecting it. You have the same thing. What's that? Oh, that gap. Yeah, it's probably just the discrepancy between the micros. Happens sometimes. Right. As we said though, that's really just the same as this fair value gap. So I wouldn't treat them too differently. Oh. Yeah, pretty much the same. Am I on a Ninja? No. I do Trade-Evade. I like TradingView better. Or negative. Oh wait. Yeah, everything to me is saying we want to get up there. That's what we said. We had the second standard deviation from that measuring gap aligning with the high of the 15. Now I'm taking pretty much the highest high to the lowest low that clears liquidity before we break that leg. Right, so pretty much just the last move down, highest high to low. You project that as a potential area for price to run. Fourth standard deviation also up there, so. Yeah, the high of that has my attention. I want to see the high of that get hit before we look for anything. As we said, we can revisit this. We're watching here, but it doesn't play too much of importance. This is kind of the more important fair value gap right here. We'll watch what takes place. I can almost guarantee you that we've wicked the upper quadrant of that fair value gap. So if we broke down the anatomy, high to low, CE levels, beautiful. So we did reject there. as we said, no liquidity, so it's slightly different. We're not reaching for liquidity. So if we can break down, I do want to go lower. What up, dollar? Mr. Dollar. I really want us to get below this, though. That'd be way better. But high, low, higher, high. If we displace below that, bearish breaker, inversion, potential premium to target midweek. New week opening gap. There's a lot of sell side. Right here would be first target. 5 minute inefficiency, inefficiency, inefficiency. I actually want us to continue to consolidate. So speed met with speed. Stairs up, elevator down. Maybe something like this. All right, slowly up. Boom, wipe it all out. I'd like that. Take the stairs up, 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 up. Reverse it. Boom, wipe it all out. That'll be our play. As we said, we've just moved so far from this point for us to look for longs. If we're going to look for longs, it'll be in the afternoon. But I want to see, so we're reaching 10:30. I do want to see if this high right here can't be the high of our morning range from 9:30 to 10:30, which could set up a nice sell-off just back into some of this, at least right here. I just said bring back up the indicators, new week opening gap paired with first presented fair value gap. Look at how that new week opening gap consequent encroachment held. That's just beautiful to see. But yeah, now at this point, I do want to see if we can invert this. We'll try to get that short. As I said, this has caused me hesitation, but if we get displacement below, we'll be able to shot like that. Just gotta wait. Patience, patience, a patience. Ooh, there's a close. Okay, I like that. Especially if we left that open. If we can leave that fair value gap right there, we'll take that. As I said, this is, if we're gonna bounce from anywhere, it's gonna be from right here. So I'm fine with that, because then we should be wrong quickly. I just like to be right or wrong quickly, regardless. Stop will be above. We have an inversion here with the down close candle, so we shouldn't get back that high. High, low, higher, high broken. They're gonna leave that open. Okay. So here we go. Oh, yep, smart. I'll update them. I think I can go back in at the end actually, but I'll start putting them in the title for the beginning as well. Each morning. All right, so at this point, I'd actually want to see us bounce from here. So we said this is where price will bounce. This is like our flip point. If we fall through that right now, I don't know if we're getting this retracement. At the same time, however, If we're offsides, this is where we're going to find out quickly if we're offsides, because price is going to rip right through these highs and try to get into the high of this 15. So now it's just a matter of time, right? Patience. I like the idea of, however, all bullish, hitting the higher quadrant of the 15, 1, 2, 3 drives. As we break back down below the low, we leave a bearish fair value gap, bearish breaker paired with the bearish fair value gap, and now an inversion. So I'm fine with this. If we're offsides, we're offsides. There's the entry. We'll see. We'd want to see price kind of move away quickly and break a low. I mean, that's perfect delivery into this bullish fair value gap here. So if we're going to be on side, we would need to break below that low aggressively. If not, then we'll just kind of call it for the morning. Right, it's 10:30 right now. So as we said, this becomes our morning session high. I want that to remain intact if we're on sides. So far, it looks like we're going to want to accelerate right through that. We'll see. Bullish volume balance, don't like that. Maybe offside here. Let's watch. This needs to get closed in. So ideally we can close that bearish, not leave that bullish volume balance open, because that's going to give them an opportunity to use it as support to just accelerate higher, as we said, if we want to reach these higher inefficiencies we're still talking about. So for the time being, want to see this area hold us and accelerate us lower. That low would be 6 handles, so I could probably partial there. Let's watch the candlesticks though. Remember, bodies telling the story, waiting on bodies. I like that. So now we're going to retest here. Let us get below that area. I don't want us to find support here again. I want us to actually close below that. If we're going to retest this area, we want to see price willing to slide below it now. Right? If we find support here again, we may just be setting up some buy side to run out easily. And can easily just consolidate in here, right? New week opening gap is going to be a very sensitive area in price. Following a huge run up like this, if we're not in an effort to either run out highs or retrace, it's going to turn into consolidation, right? The expansion, I hate when that happens, bro. The expansion will lead into consolidation, which more than likely will consolidate around here without ever taking the high or coming any lower. Which is why I'd rather like to see kind of speed here at this moment. I don't want to see us making attempts to start invalidating some of these discounts that we've created on the way up. Because at least that'll give us an indication that, right, in the short term, order flow has switched. This low right here is pretty important to me, so I'm really eyeing this low because it was the low that returns into new week opening gap, into the bullish fair value gap, and into the buy side, and it's perfect delivery. As we often say, right, those things aren't random. So to me, clearing below this low is a very good sign for us. So that's just what we need to see. As I said, we're going to keep it easy, right? It's Monday. We're not pushing too crazy. I could easily take, you said, is that 5 handles? Yep. So that's an easy partial area right there. Love me the good ends model. Short-term sell side becomes short-term partial. And we'll take one off. Not trying to be too fancy. Except I gotta go like this. Because we don't want to buy that. And then we'll put it right there. So now, right, here we go. We're getting stuck between the breaker. This inversion, so we have the bullish inversion, turn bearish, bullish fair value gap. We trade into it, holds us, it runs us into a high, and then we invert that. That's gonna be important. We have 2 bearish fair value gaps here and here. Right, we have high to the low to the higher high broken. Consecutive down close candles. We have our breaker here. So I'm looking at all this and I'm saying, all right, if we're bearish, right, all of these in here should hold us, which is why the stop for me is above consequent encroachment or mean threshold of the breaker itself. Because personally, I wouldn't want to see this fair value gap get violated, even though the breaker's here. And that's why our stop's there. Right, so really like for me, we'll say our area invalidation, just so it's not so messy, is this. Just don't want to. And then our area of kind of right, wanting to see price give way is this here. So yeah, it looks like we're coming off the low, gonna want to retest fair value gap. There's a fair value gap. Now we'll see what we get. As we said, coming off this area, this would be where we would basically go bullish. So if we hold from here, it makes sense. That's a clear area of invalidation. There's midpoint. See if we want to venture into the high. Ideally, we hold consequent encroachment, right? If we're going to hold this. If we get above that, not looking too good. So now we wait and see what does price do at this level here, right? It's consequent encroachment. For us to feel pretty confident, we want to see quick rejection, closure below. If we don't, so we are able to hold it, but now we've still remained in that. I don't want to see this bearish volume imbalance here run lower. Don't want to see it attack this high again. There's, all right, consequent encroachment. That's all I wanted to see. I want this to be a swing high right here. So that's kind of what we want to see get put into place. If not, we'll just have to hope for that retracement. We do get that high. So now, yep, now we're kind of venturing a little too high. As we said, coming off of the bullish buy side, fair value gap. Watching to see if we get above that, that might be it. Another wick, which is good. Consequent encroachment holding. Don't forget we have all those, right, higher time frame levels, key levels above. So pushing up and through, cool. So we're out there. And as you said, if we're gonna go long, it's gonna be from this area. We're simply just trying to catch a short-term retracement, just deeper retracement. So we understand bullish order flow. I just didn't want to try to catch longs as we've already been all the way up here. Want to get a quick retracement back up into, really I was looking for this first presented. We don't get it, that's fine. So from here, I'd watch and see, right, are we gonna actually hold that and just continue to run higher is what it seems like we're gonna want to do. Now that we've inverted that, we'll see how we close there. If we come back down through this again, I do think we're just gonna hit that consolidation that we spoke of. And so after running into all of these higher time frame objectives, just consolidate in there. Do we have an opposing? I'm trying to see if we formed an opposing. So now we're going to have, this is our inversion, right? Where we entered, it held us, closed below. If it accelerates through, that becomes bullish inversion. Notice how we held the low of this though. Should maybe hold that. Closed above it. So this has the opportunity to be an inversion as well. Just watching. 5 minutes in, wick into the volume balance. Cool. Okay. Five-minute fair value gap. Now we got the fair value gap. And we still have some right projection levels as well. It looks like we're about to just start getting chop. Quick short-term high wick. Push up and through, closure above, as we said, should continue to use that if we want to get into the highs again. We're running into that consequent encroachment of the higher time frame, however, 15. So we're seeing some of this hesitation right here. Yeah, we seem more bullish. Seems like we'll want to maintain, if anything, like hold this. Maybe to get into the high. Okay, we're holding right on that consequent encroachment. We closed above this, however, as I said, so I think that'll want to offer some type of short-term support. If anything, though, as we said, we've kind of reached that area where consolidation is more likely. Perfect, look at that delivery. I'm watching the actual volume imbalance. I'm watching to see what the body does here. Holds the volume balance, so still just playing inside that. Consequent encroachment holding us. Retesting, consequent encroachment. Once again, holding. So closing above that, right? First closure above the consequent encroachment. To me, that means that we're going to want to now continue to run. Because we did put a low there. Did we put a low on that? Oh, we did put a low there as well. That'd be super tight. Yeah, we'll watch this for very good. But as I said, closing above consequent encroachment to me indicates that we've actually been able to now close above that level. So if anything, it should offer us some type of support. So I'm watching now what does price do as we continue to trade into that level. We can wick lower into fair value gaps. We do have equal lows, so I wouldn't even mind like a wick to clear out the lows, but body should hold this higher fair value gap if we're going to start reaching for highs up here. And I'm simply just kind of going off the idea that, right, we trade into this, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. We get stuck. We finally close above it. So now may I want to offer us some type of short-term, just pump higher. Look for that. I'll be right back. I have to go bathroom. Give me a sec. Good call, brother. Yep, I was indeed muted. But yeah, we're back now. I'm just looking at this here. That's returning into the original buy side fair value again. As you said, I still do think if we can get below that, we should run lower. I'm not sure if I'll attempt one more entry or not. Nice longs. Quick stop out here. 1050. Yeah, I think we will actually. If we get below that, because now we went breaker right to mitigation. Closing back below. I think this is our flip. So closure below that will look to get short, but for the time being, this is also going to be where we're going to consolidate from, as we mentioned earlier. So if we can't get below that and we just keep bouncing, we'll be good. Good for the morning.
Proclaimed film junkie.
Yes, I do! You don't! Why are you yelling?
Big bounce. See if this is the final acceleration into some of these highs here. That becomes just a buy side pull. Seeing what's happening here with this. Although we have the inversion, I'm really still looking at this. I think this is an instance where, yeah, we're probably just going to consolidate heading into the lunch hour. Okay, we'll wait till 11 and call it a morning. You know, I'm not convinced. What time is it? 10:50. Watch out, buddy. Yeah, but he be annoying, man. He be needy. That's my boy. He purring. Watch out, buddy. I gotta get him in his bed. I got beds right, unlike my computer. But even then, he's gotta be right by my damn face. Literally in the mic, just purring into the mic. I was gonna say I might play around with this, to be honest. I think we're like stuck in this consolidation, right? In times like this, price tends to reference these areas more than once before it actually can escape. We could be offsides and this could all be a goofy ass play, but like we said, Monday, let's have some fun, okay? So really, this framework would be the same. Like this fair value gap should hold. This candle's low should hold. And we could probably even just target a 1-to-1 type thing, 1-to-2, just back into that 15-minute. Look. Like that. Yeah, this man Trump, bruh. Trump markets are very unpredictable. With all the tweets and all the talks. Yes, I've seen this happen quite a bit, right? Where we engineer a high, we have an area, a higher time frame discount, price bangs off that multiple times before running out the buy side that it created. In a day that's already extremely bullish. So let's try that. And then here, if we get stopped out, this will be it for sure today. 3 trades, 1 winner, 2 losses. Winner outpaces the losses. But this will be a quick just scalp here, trying to go from basically new week opening gap high, which is shown to be a pretty strong area of support. And then we're just going to try to target that 15-minute consequent encroachment again. What time is it? 11. A little later than my liking. Still think we want to do this though. Let's see what this does. If we get into that midpoint right now, we'll just close it. But I think we could still get up in there. Keep on doing work. Work. All right. Let's see. A little short-term low. I wouldn't mind running that out. Still trying to get into, as we said, if we get into a consequent encroachment or if we run this high again, we're just going to call it. Don't forget, it's only Monday. Plenty of time left. Okay, fell short, ran the short-term high, run this high, run this low, interest, then run the high, max consolidation. As you said, in areas of consolidation like this, you have to trade the extremes of the range, so the low and the high of that range, which is why I want to try to get this entry. But if we run higher, we'll just call it. Ba-da-da-da-da. I didn't even know Trump was talking. I gotta figure out, because it doesn't show up anymore in the the economic calendar. My man just loves to yap. Later in the afternoon. Okay. Oh, fell short of it. Let's see. And he's talking to Putin and Ukraine? Okay. What do you think? He's the global peacemaker. Ugh. We did fall short of that. This may be the fair value gap that uses, or that we use though. Let's see. I like to just trade below that. Not really respected. High, low, up, down, up, down. He is though. I ain't gonna lie, brother. He's maybe, I don't know. I'm not really a fan of politicians in general. Because he doesn't really, you know, they don't really work for people like us too much. Da 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 da. I was gonna say, probably last thing from a peacemaker, if I'm being honest. Even if you agree with him, it's just like the decisiveness is crazy. I feel like growing up, both people didn't like politicians, whereas like now it's like, oh my god, if you're right or left, we must fight. Which is crazy. All part of a plan, though. That's the purpose. Just get people to hate each other. More money for the rich. Facts, brother. They're all owned. That's one thing I can agree with. None of them really work for the people. They just work for the richer people that they gotta get more money into their pockets. We did fall short of that. So I'm gonna leave this entry here because now I like the idea of trying to get into that high. As we said, we don't, in cases like this, okay, you don't really pay much attention to the PD rates that are getting formed within this mix. Like, I know that fair value gaps and stuff are getting formed, but I'm not putting much emphasis on them. I'm relying on the higher time frame key areas that were created before the consolidation takes place. The sooner you can notice that consolidation, just the better you will be at saving yourself, right? So after having the breaker be invalidated, having us come back down through it again and then invalidating it, that right there is already saying that, right, unreliable price action. It's like in theory, if we wanted to remain bullish quickly, right after invalidating this breaker and trading above it, that should have offered us support to accelerate us. Opposingly, when we break lower, hold the bearish fair value gap, break lower, right, that should have held us to go lower. So we're obviously getting stuck here. So I'm going to use the key area of that newly opening gap as the entry. So far, the actual bullish fair value gap did hold, but as we said, I'm not putting too much emphasis in that. We could easily slide right under that. That's what I'd look for. Getting a little late. 11:10. Usually I'm out by 11, but Monday morning I like the idea of this. We do have SMT, so maybe this is the actual move here. Quick look at NQ. So NQ was able to run out those lows and return into that fair value gap that we're trying to get long at in ES, this one. Whereas ES was unable to clear these lows. So this may be the actual move, but I'm still not convinced. I think we can get another stab lower. Try to pick up on that. Right, yep, a lot of lows and highs. This is what the retail flag people would call it, right? Bear flag or bull flag, I guess, depending on what you want to believe. Compressing the cone pattern. People really do trade like that. Isn't that crazy? I mean, hey, if it works, it works. Keep it simple. If it goes above that, it's going up. Duh. If it goes below this, it's going down. Easy. inside the 60. Yep, inside the 1 hour. This is a 1 hour high. I don't have it on there, but I have it on my other chart. That's why I was originally trying to go short as well, because this candle, not only does it hit the 15-minute 3/4, but it was actually the 1 hour high here. If I put the high, the 1 hour fair value gap. So that's why I was confident trying to short that. But now, as we said, the fact that we're just staying in here, we expect consolidation to play out following a large run up. So we use the extremes of the range. At this point, it would be like a turtle soup. All right, notice what's kind of taking place in here now is that we're starting to build a little trend line like this. So if we could sweep that and still hold. We've just hit midpoint though, so I think we'll just call it. We'll call it there. I still think this idea can hold, especially if we don't run out these highs, but for us, if we do want to trade low and go higher, we're fine not being involved in that. So that'll be all for us today. Quick little recap. We'll start with just the early morning here. So this is a pre-opening bell trade, right? Really using new day opening gap and kind of turtle soup entry, understanding without news that 9:30 will act as the catalyst. So for us, right, these buy side targets or the swing highs became our buy side objective, especially because we have the first presented fair value gap from last week, perfectly aligned with that. That becomes our exit. Our entry is turtle soup. So as you see, price clear the short-term low twice and hold the new day opening gap. We went ahead and got long perfectly on that. Stop loss below the most recent swing point. Right, there's the entry right on the high. As we said, first partial, 5 handles as we return into a premium fair value gap, especially because it's before the opening. So in case we were off sides, we just want to secure some partials. 9:30 opens and delivers straight into our objective here. So nice trade there, right? Good clean trade prior to the opening bell. And then we did try to catch the shorts just back into this range. So right off opening, all one-sided delivery, every discount held. As price traded into the 1 hour fair value gap high, broke lower underneath this bullish fair value gap. We just tried to use a little inversion play. But obviously we're off sides. Price trades right up and through that. Once that happens, we understand more than likely price is just going to consolidate. And that's what we do here. So no need to press or continue to try to force entries when there's nothing there to do. So overall, great Monday. This is what we like. Keeping it simple. Winners outpace the losers tremendously. And not in a hurry or not trying to force too many entries. So at this point, we'll go ahead and call it a day. If you guys are going to hang out and kind of look for trades this afternoon, I still like that same idea, to be honest. So for the time being, as long as we can maintain that new week opening gap high, I like the idea of running up into higher prices. But if we start breaking down below that, and especially this first presented, this would be my key area. Anything below this, I look for a return back into midnight levels. But for us, we'll call it a day there. Appreciate you guys hanging around. As we said, no news the remainder of the week until Thursday. Yeah, so tomorrow we'll just be back here at the same time, 9:25 Eastern, just before that opening bell, and we'll hang out for a few hours and see what we get. But until then, be safe, everybody. Hope you guys have a good afternoon, good rest of the day, and we'll talk tomorrow morning. See you guys.